Hey there, welcome to my YouTube channel, Wool Meets World. I am Marcy, and this is episode 9 of the Wool Meets World podcast. I am a busy maker from New York City. I balance my 9 to 5 with my love of all things crafting. I am primarily a longtime knitter, but I also crochet, sew, play with clay, and pretty much anything that you can find in the aisles of Michael's. I also love audiobooks or love to read books, so I'm going to be talking about all of that in this episode. I have some finished objects to share, my current works in progress, some making plans for the start of summer, and the current books that I am reading, or the books that I've just finished, rather. So let's get started with what I am wearing and my finished objects. So the vest that I am wearing is actually my first finished object for 2025. It took me way too long to knit this, way longer than I wanted to, but you know what? That is a story for a different podcast episode. It is finally finished. I'm finally wearing it, and it just came out perfect. It is perfect for this super weird weather we are having in the Northeast lately. It's mid-June. It should be really hot out, but it's currently 60 degrees. So wearing this over a short sleeve shirt like I have it is just kind of the perfect thing to keep me cozy in this very unseasonably cool weather that we're having. Everything that I talk about here can be found in the description box below, and if it is a knit or crochet project, you can also find my project notes on Ravelry. If I do them, I don't always do project notes, but if I do, you can find that on Ravelry. This is the Avenue Vest by Tori, and it was released in December of 2024, the pattern was. And I think in April of this year, Tori also released the Avenue T, which looks very similar. It just has sleeves instead of this vest version here. It is knit from the top down, and it's knit flat starting at the shoulders and then connected in the round at the underarms. It is made for worsted weight yarn, and it's very, very size inclusive. It's got some ease to it, and the bust sizing for this goes from a 34 to a 66 inches. So it's got 9 sizes, super size inclusive. It's got this V-neck version, which I've done. There's also a crew neck view in the pattern, so you can pick either or. And it's got some ribbing detail here at the neck and then at the armholes. The armholes are rather deep here, as prescribed by the pattern, and is just perfect for layering. The yarn that I use, let me see, this pattern is made for worsted weight yarn. The yarn that I use is actually from a farm store. It's from a Clover farm, which is a gorgeous little farm in upstate New York. They do llama and alpaca walks there at the farm, and you get to meet all the animals and stuff. For more on that, check out podcast episode 7. I go into great detail about it, and then a little bit in podcast episode 8 as well if you want to learn more about the farm. It's about 2 hours from New York City. And it is super close to Rhinebeck, so if you ever go to Rhinebeck, you can check them out there. They have the farm store where you can buy the fiber there. I bought 2 skeins there, and then when I started doing this, I knew I needed another one, so I was able to buy another one online, so they do ship, which is great. And yeah, this is a natural fiber here. There's no dyeing to it. It's just this natural, like heather gray, and the it is listed as worsted weight, but when I did gauge it out, it came out to a little bit more of a DK weight gauge when I was working with the yarn. So I just had to basically increase my size and knit at a larger size to get something that actually fit me at a different gauge, which is super easy to do. The fiber content of this is half llama alpaca, so 25% each, and then half Shetland wool, which all of that is raised on the farm, and I believe it's sent offsite to be milled, but all the fiber itself is actually from the farm, and I am thrilled to finally be done with this. I love this pattern so much, and I think I'm definitely gonna knit the tee eventually. Super cute. Okay, so the next project that I have is the Bandit cardigan from Jack C. Slack. Here, I'll put it on. And it comes in a cropped or full-length version. Mine is kind of in the middle. here. So what I did was I actually knit the cropped version, and I even made it shorter than what the pattern recommends, but I knew it was gonna grow because I'm using superwash yarn here, so it is kind of in the middle between cropped and not. It is size inclusive as well. It's got 10 sizes. The finished bust measurements go from 36 to 72 inches. It's meant to have a lot of positive ease. It has a little bit of like gathering details here in the collar. You knit a shorter amount of stitches or a less amount of stitches, and then you increase and you'll get some like kind of gathers here at the collar, and then the sleeves do balloon. You can see that there. So I used Woolberry Fiber Co. and it's the Berry Merino base, which is 100% superwash fingering weight, and it is the colorway Ode to Valentine. It's kind of this like peachy pink with lots of speckles to it, and then the contrast around the collar, button band, cuffs, and bottom is Malabrigo. It's the Arroyo base in the colorway English Rose. It's also 100% merino, but I think that this, I realized later on, I think that this is actually a sport weight yarn, whereas the main is fingering weight yarn. So it didn't cause me any problems in the collar, and you know, it didn't cause me any problems in the horizontal space, but in the button band kind of got a little bit longer, so it kind of triangles as a cardigan, which is fine. It's cute. I like it. I still have to just finish the button band. It needs some crochet edging and then to sew the buttons on, but otherwise this is finished. I'm calling it finished because who knows when I'm going to add the buttons on it. I did make one major modification to it. The pattern calls for a folded over stockinette stitch collar, hem, and cuff. I actually did a ribbed collar, hem, and cuff. So you can see there that I have the rib. So you cannot do quite what the pattern tells you to do for the actual like folding over of it for securing it on the cuffs and hem. You have to kind of modify that a little bit. That's all in my project notes, but basically what I did was I do the setup row in the pattern. You have to split for 2 sets of stitches basically. One goes on a waist yarn and then the other goes on your needles, and for the modification you basically have to just knit 2 inches, fold it over, and then tack it down in one of a couple ways. So you cannot do what the pattern tells you to do. You have to knit 2 inches, fold it over, and tack it down, because what the pattern wants you to do is to basically split. You'll have an outer stitch, you'll have an outer set of stitches and an inner set of stitches, and then it wants you to graft using Kitchener. You can't do that with 1x1 ribs specifically in the round. You can do it flat, you cannot do it in the round, so you basically just have to knit 2 inches and tack it down. I did kind of an experiment where I did 2 different ways of tacking it down. On the cuff, you can see I have this row of stockinette stitches there. So basically I did a 3-needle bind off there. I didn't want to do that for the hem because since it's a cardigan, you'll see the other side, you'll see the wrong side. So basically I did a Kitchener. There we go. I did a Kitchener there, so you just didn't get that row of bumps. So there is a little indentation there, but honestly, when you wear it, you really can't see inside anyway. So I think if I did it again, I would probably just go with the 3-needle bind off. But I learned a lot about myself as a knitter trying to do this modification. I learned that you should always read the pattern twice. Don't think you know what the pattern says to do, because you'll probably end up doing it wrong. So just read the pattern twice, always. Don't rely on your memory. And then the other thing is, particularly when you're doing a modification, just trust yourself. Don't second guess. You know what you're doing. If you do second guess yourself like I did, you'll probably end up having to rip back a little bit and redo some of your work. But you know what? You live and learn. So that is that. The third project that I finished recently, just this month actually, is a sewing project. And it is the Estuary Skirt by Sew Liberated. And it is a really like full kind of boho skirt. And it has a button band going down the front, and it has a elastic waistband. The pattern has two views. It has either patch pockets or inseam pockets. So I actually chose to do the inseam pockets. And then for the button band, this is why I really love this pattern. It's a beginner to advanced beginner project, because you could actually do a faux button band if you choose. I actually did working buttons, which, you know, it's not my strongest suit at this point as a newbie sewer, but you can see there I've actually done a working button band. The pattern does caution if you have bigger hips like I do to actually do a working button band so that you don't have a lot of pressure on the elastic in the back when you try to pull the skirt over your hips. I think it'd personally be fine if you didn't do the working button band, but either way, the pattern just really comes out fabulous. And for me, I'm a long time sewer, but I recently started doing garments, so I'm always looking for beginner-friendly projects or confident beginner projects that I can actually learn a new skill. So I did learn for the first time how to do an elastic waistband. The fit is not totally perfect. It's like this much large on me, but it's definitely a really good pattern to learn how to do an elastic, or at least partial elastic waistband. And then I was able to practice the inseam pockets again, which I've done before, and as well as the buttonholes and button placket. I just think buttonholes it's really not easy, so the more practice you can get, especially on a garment like this where there's no fit required, there's so much ease to this skirt that you won't be, you know, if you make a mistake with a button band, it won't be like pulling open or anything because it's just not a tight fit. So this is a really good project to practice your button band on, your button placket and your buttonholes, and a nice elasticy skirt. The fabric is mid-weight European linen from Core Fabrics. For my US friends, it is based in Canada, but I actually learned recently that they have a whole tariff-free section, and the mid-weight European linen is among that. So I haven't actually ordered it yet to see if it's actually tariff-free, but Core Fabrics says that it is tariff-free. So I guess, I don't know, I guess we'll find out about that when I try ordering for them again. But it is a linen made in Europe, and it already comes pre-washed, so it's super soft already. And I've already washed the skirt I've washed the fabric once before I started, and then I washed it again when I finished the skirt. And it is just super soft, super drapey, and it is a Core Fabrics brand, so it just comes in the most gorgeous colors. Very bright, very like jewel tony colors. So this is the color raspberry, and you can see how bright and delightful it is, and it goes super nicely with my cardigan. So I love that I will be able to wear these together in the summer. And that is kind of what I've done in the last month or two since I've podcasted. Those are my finished projects. So let's get going with some of the current whips that I have. So I have two main works in progress that I am going back and forth between. The first one I'm carrying around in this super cute project bag that my mom made me. Shout outs to you, Mom, for the project bag. I love it. And I am working on, I don't have my notes here. Let's get them before I start talking about things. So the first one that I have is the Mooncrush Tank by Jack Slack. I will put the pattern picture up right there so you can see it. It is a color blocked summer tank top, and it comes in 9 different sizes, super size inclusive. and it is a boxy tank meant to be worn with at least 4 to 5 inches of positive ease. As you can see here, the original pattern comes in, or you want to make it with 3 colors, but inside the pattern it is written with a modification for 2 colors, which is what I am doing here. It is knit flat from the top down and then seamed up along the side seams. The top of the tank appears to be kind of like mock neck, where it's really close up to your neck. When I get there, I might adjust that a little bit, because I have sensory issues. I don't love having, you know, stuff touching my neck. So I don't wear commercial mock neck tops, so I probably will just add some neck shaping to this, and I will have those project notes in the project page when I get there and figure that out. What else? I said I'm using 2 colors for this instead of 3. Oh, and the pattern also comes in a cropped or full length version that is written into the pattern as well, that modification. And I am doing, again, as with my cardigan, I'm sort of doing an in-between the cropped and the full length version. The cropped version on this is very cropped. I think there's only 6 inches between the end of the armhole and the hem. So that's a little bit too cropped for me. So in the pattern, there is a space that is written out for you to add extra length. So I think the main pattern follows the crop version, and then it says add length here for the full length version. So basically I just at that point added a little bit of length, not as much as the full length version calls for. I think I added 4 inches, and you can see, so I added it right there before doing the chart where the color starts to curve into the color block pattern. And the top is made for fingering weight yarn. The base that I'm using is from Woolberry Fiber Co., and it is a fingering weight base, but this particular yarn is actually a really light fingering weight, so you may have to adjust your gauge or the size that you knit with if you're going to use this. This is Woolberry Fiber Co.'s Berry Linen. It is 25% alpaca, 25% linen, 25% silk. And let's show that properly. Is it showing? I think so. Yes, so this is the colorway Happy Place in pink, and the off-white base is the colorway Oats. I actually knit a tank top last year in this colorway. I adore it so much. This is probably one of my very favorite bases from Woolberry Fiber Co. It's so next to skin soft. It's really breezy for the summertime, and I just think the stitch definition looks completely gorgeous. Yeah, so I started this tank a couple weeks ago, and it is knit from the bottom up. I think I said that, but it's got a fold over hem here, so you start with the fold over hem. I added the 4 inches of extra length to it and then started the chart. It comes, I don't think it comes with written instructions, it's just charted instructions, and there are 3 different charts for each, the front and back. So I've done chart 1 already. I finished chart 2, which starts the underarm shaping, and now I'm about to start chart 3, which is kind of the rest of the chest, and, you know, decreasing even further going into the armhole here. So that is where I am on this pattern. Do I want to say anything more about this? The base here from Woolberry Fiber Co. only comes around once or twice a year, usually like in May, I want to say. I just ordered more of it, and I think this year, new this year, she added a DK weight base to it, so I did order that DK weight, but this is the fingering weight version that I ended up getting maybe last summer, maybe 2 summers ago, I forget now, but it only comes around once a year, so you definitely want to order that when it's out if you want to try that. The next project that I have, I've just mainly been using for tray knitting because it's portable and the chart is very small. And these are the Oolong Socks by Amy Scher, and it's got this really cute lace detail, and then it has an optional mohair ruffle up at the pattern picture right there. And I've done 2 main modifications to this pattern. Before I get there, it's got 3 sizes. Size, I think, A, B, and C for a 7, 8, or 9-inch circumference around the foot, so you can choose your size. I am doing a size A, which has like 56 stitches around the foot. So that's the 7-inch foot circumference, and I wear a US size 7 shoe. So I made 2 main modifications to it. The first and easiest to explain is that instead of the traditional heel that's, written in the pattern, I am doing the shadow wrap heel. I use Earth Tones Girls tutorial on the shadow wrap heel. I'll link that down below. It's an excellent tutorial if you don't know how to do the shadow wrap heel, and I just find it more convenient to do than your like standard, heel flap and gusset heel, or flap and gusset heel. It's just easier, it's less thinking, and I don't really have any specific way that I like my heel to fit, so this particular heel works just fine for me. Sometimes it can cause a little bit of tightness here. If you experience that, I think if you just make a deeper heel, it should take care of that. But I really don't mind if there's any tightness sort of at the slope of my ankle. So that this particular heel is just perfectly fine for me. I ended up also kind of modifying the shadow wrap heel. It's a stockinette stitch short row heel. I just added a little bit of waffling to that, just because this particular base is 100% merino without the nylon, and I just wanted a little bit of extra texture to prevent the heel from wearing away there. So the other modification that I made is that I am knitting this from the toe up. The pattern actually is written from the top down, but I decided to knit it from the toe up because I have a very specific length that I need the kind of shaft of the leg shaft to be, and I wanted to be able to try it on, and I just find that knitting from the toe up gives you maximum flexibility to change anything you need because you're trying it on as you go. So what does that mean? Instead of starting with the ribbing on the cuff and going this way, I did Judy's Magic cast on, and I cast on 24 stitches. I increased 4 stitches every other round until I got to 56 stitches along the toe, and then I am doing the chart backwards, I guess you would say. I am starting at the very top of the chart and knitting down, so I'm starting at like row 15 or 16, whatever it is, and knitting backwards down to row 1, and then just repeating that so that the lace pattern is actually facing the same way. I could have experimented to see if I knit from row 1, to row 15, going from the toe up, if that would look any different. I didn't. I'm just doing the chart backwards, and it's working out fine for me. You can see how pretty that lace pattern is turning out, and so I did that for a very specific reason, and let me show you my inspiration photo. This comes from Freddie Bolt, who is Freddie_Bolt on Instagram, and she's an excellent Instagram follow. I mean, she has like the vibiest page I've ever seen. If you like flowers, in particular wildflowers, just her page is like so aesthetic. I love it. Give her a follow on Instagram. I don't think these socks were made by her. I think these are commercially bought socks, but she does the little embroidery on the pant, which I think is so cute. And maybe one day if I need to have a pair of pants, I will do it like this. But what I really want is to have a pair of socks like this. I have this pair of black Chelsea boots that are, like high top Chelsea boots, and I love the way the little ruffle comes down over the boot. So I want to kind of make my own socks just like that. So that is why I needed to have the specific length of the shaft come to a, why I need to have that come to a specific length and why I just want to be able to try it on. Could I just measure from the top of my heel to, where I want the ribbing to be? Yes, I could, but I just really like to try things on as I go. So that is why I modified the pattern like this, and it's, it's just how I chose to do it, and that, that's okay. That's why we make our own clothing. That's why we can make modifications to patterns, because we just want to do it the way that we want to do it, and it'll turn out, I'm sure, if I had done it, cuffed down, I'm sure it would turn out fine, but this way I just ensure that it turns out exactly the way I want it. So those are pretty much the works in progress that I have going now. I don't know if I have the bandwidth to do more, but I am actually going to add more very soon to my plate, and so let's go over those in my knitting plans. So I have two projects that I am starting ASAP. I'm gonna go wind up yarn for the first project as soon as I am done taping here today. And the first project is a Advent yarn blanket. This is the 2024 Advent from Homespun House, and I think there are several different bases here, but they're all fingering weight superwash. Some of them have the not tinsel, what do you call it? This yarn is, this label is too small for me to read, but some of it has the Stellino base. If you could see, yeah, you see a little bit of twinkle there. So some of them are just superwash merino, and then some of them have the Stellina to it. And I pretty much knew when I opened up on day one last year, I think this might be day one here. So as soon as I saw this yarn, I knew that it had to be a blanket, and I've been wanting to do a crochet blanket for a while now, so I'm really excited to do this. It's got so many fun, really bright colors, and I think it'll do really nicely. I have this little gray couch that is right behind the camera here, and I think it'll do really nicely to just brighten up that couch. So I've been knowing that I want to do this. It's just kind of been a matter of finding the right blanket as well as time to do it. But like I said at the top of this podcast episode, I have a 9-to-5 job, so it is never really a good time for me to start a big project like a blanket. But I am probably going to have some more Advent skeins coming in at the end of this year. So, I really just have to get going and get rid of some of the ones that I already have. So that is why I'm going to start this now, and hopefully in 6 months I will be done with this set. I'm probably going to need another mini skein set because the pattern that I am doing is the Patchwork Granny Blanket by Toni Lipsy. It's more of a blanket recipe rather than an actual pattern, but it's totally free. She has this great post on her blog, on her website basically. It's a blog post going over how she kind of made this blanket. She has this excellent section about picking colors for it. It calls for fingering weight yarn, so you can do a mini skein set. You can create your own mini skein set or just use leftovers. And she has this great piece about choosing colors for it. So I will be doing that when I need to add in more fingering weight yarn to this mini skein set, because I think she said she uses 40 mini skeins, and I think I have 24 here, so I'm going to need some more. And then I am going to need a contrast color as well to go with this. So I'll be following her excellent direction on how to pick out contrasting colors for that. And then it goes into the different granny squares that you can do and use in the blanket. I am going to be doing the one that's actually just pictured there in her picture, which I think is just, I don't know, I'm not a granny square knitter, so I think it's just like your basic kind of original granny square. And yeah, so that is going to be started immediately, and hopefully I can wrap up at least this Advent set, and then hopefully maybe pick out some more colors to have that blanket done by the end of 2025. And the next project that I'm going to be doing is a sewing project, and one of my most favorite projects, probably my most useful project, the one that I use the most out of everything, is my Keep Palm and Beach Mat On. That's a mouthful. My Keep Palm and Beach Mat On beach mat by Knitting Tipsy. I'll put a picture of it right here. It is a crochet beach mat, and I actually moved during COVID. I moved down the block from a pool, so I pretty much use this to cover up my pool chair when I go to the pool, and I use it every single time I go. That's why this is like literally my most used project ever. I use the recommended yarn for the pattern, which is Hobbies ribbon yarn. It's 100% cotton, and it's machine washable, and I just lie it flat to dry on like a garment like drying rack, clothing rack. And I made it in this light pink with the blue palm motif to it. And if there's anything that I love, one thing that I love the most in the world is a matching or coordinating set. So I'm finally getting around to making a coordinating beach bag. Since I moved here, I've just been using like a plastic like shopping bag that I got at Joann's, you know, one of those reusable shopping bags, and it's now starting to rip apart because it is just plastic. And I always pile a lot of things into my beach bag. So I'm finally making one out of this jelly vinyl. I got this last year from Zipper Valley. Heads up, they are in Canada, and I think you do have to pay tariffs now if you're ordering from them. But I got this jelly vinyl last year before those tariffs were a thing, and I'm finally getting around to sewing it. I have some coordinating yarn that I'm using, or coordinating fabric rather, that I'm using with it from a quilt project that I finished last year as well. So I'm going to be using the pink for an internal pocket, and then the blue is going to be the binding that I use to cover up my seams when making the jelly vinyl. I'm not using a specific pattern for this. I am just kind of making my own pattern, and it's going to be like a stand-up style tote bag. I'm basically measuring the bag that I'm using right now and, you know, cutting out some pieces and just sewing them together for a tote bag. Since I'm not using my own pattern, I was thinking that maybe I would post a very informal tutorial or like sew along style video here on my channel for anybody interested in making a similar bag. I would be a horrible knitting or sewing teacher, so it's just going to be very informal, me just showing the steps that I've done to make the bag. So if you were interested in that, keep an eye out for that coming soon. This project is going to be started as soon as I get some nylon webbing for the handles and some matching thread to sew it all together. So that will be coming soon, and I look forward to using that new beach bag. Oh, I've been talking so much. Let's wrap up this podcast with a discussion about all the books that I've been reading recently. So one of my very most favorite books that probably I've ever read, certainly one of my favorite books of 2025, has been The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. It is a historical fiction, and this book won Colson Whitehead his first Pulitzer Prize, his second Pulitzer Prize. He's been on my radar for a little while now for his book, The Underground Railroad, which is on my TBR list, and that also won the Pulitzer Prize. And I had to read The Nickel Boys first ahead of The Underground Railroad because The Nickel Boys was made into a Academy Award nominated film. It was nominated for Best Picture. And so my husband and I try often to watch all the Best Picture nominees. He is a film nerd, I would call him. So we try to watch the Best Picture nominees. We made it this year. It was a big achievement for both of us. And one of those movies was Nickel Boys. And the movie was spectacular. And a friend of mine read the book. And then my husband read the book. And so it was just time for me to pick up Colson Whitehead finally and read The Nickel Boys. And what a book. A difficult book. Very trigger warnings. Look that up. It is about a young teenage boy who is an acolyte of Dr. Martin Luther King. He gets into trouble by being in the wrong place at the wrong time, essentially, and he is sent to a reform school for boys in Tallahassee, Florida. And it is just about this school and his, you know, what happens to him at the school. It is so moving, and the book had me in tears at the end. I really can't remember the last time I said that about a book, that I was in tears at the end. And the prose is impactful. The story is gorgeously written. I mean, it's based on true events, as you'll read at the end of the book in the acknowledgments. Just really one of my favorite reads of the year. And the movie is nearly 1-to-1. There's a couple of things that are changed, but I think the book hits harder in the movie than the movie, which, you know, is often the case with a book, but, or I find at least, but really just a fantastic book, not that long, under 400 pages, I would say. Really one of my favorite books that I've ever read. Loved it so much. And then the last thing I've been kind of wrapped up in here this June has been the Powerless series by Lauren Roberts. I've read the first book, Powerless, on audiobook, and then I have the next two here from the library. The next one being Reckless, and then the last one that just came out in April being Fearless. And it is a YA romantasy, and the story kind of flips between a male main character and a female main character. Peyton is the female main character, and it's this society of elites with magical special abilities, and then ordinaries who have no abilities whatsoever. It follows Peyton, who is an ordinary. She has to hide her ordinariness in this society of elites. And then the male main character is Kai, and he is one of the most powerful elites and sort of tasked with hunting people like Peyton down. So it is enemies to lovers. I think that these books are probably one of my favorite examples of enemies to lovers. It takes the trope and it's just a really good use of the enemies to lovers trope. Powerless ends on a fantastic cliffhanger, and I had to move on to Reckless right away. It's a little bit shorter, so I read through this pretty much in a weekend, and then Fearless is a little longer, you can see. Loved Fearless. There are little things that I would change about the series, but overall, I think Lauren Roberts, who is maybe like 21 years old, did a gorgeous job with the series. It's really poignant. The end of Fearless, spoiler-free, of course, the end of Fearless really had me thinking, and I was, gosh, a 21-year-old girl wrote this really poignant, beautiful end, and it just really left me thinking, which I love about a novel series. Like, when you gotta think about it, you know, the more you think about it, the more you like it. Two of my favorites. And yeah, I've been reading other things. I've been tearing through audiobooks lately. I think Silver Elite by Danny Francis has been the last thing that I've finished. I had it on Libby. I kind of forgot about it. It was on an audiobook. I forgot about it, or I just hadn't been able to like read audiobooks or listen to audiobooks in a couple days, and so I had to actually tear through the book in a few days before my library book had to be returned. And the more I think about that book too, love it. Also Enemies to Lovers, it's more like sci-fi dystopian themed, but it's also got, you know, some magical powers in there, so it is fantasy. Also really good romantasy book. Love it. Yeah, so that's kind of what I've been reading and listening to. And thank you so much for sticking with me. I am going to run here, have some lunch, and start working on my blanket. I will see you for the next one.